Alright, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Reveal the Shield Solar Storm Grapple, aka Solar Storm Grappel, because I guess the way they decided to get around the trademark issue of not having grapple, even though they do the Solar Storm, so I thought that that would do it, but no, they just intentionally, or maybe unintentionally, I don't know, spelled grapple wrong in the naming of this guy. He was Grappel rather than LE. It's always been kind of a funny thing, but either way, yeah, he is a version of Grapple from G1, of course, and yeah, he is a fairly decent retool of the Universe Inferno mold, obviously, since those two often share a mold. And yeah, honestly, I really like this figure, and he's still my preferred version of Grapple over the Earthrise version for a couple reasons that I'll get into. Mainly just being like the vehicle mode scales so much better with other things than the Earthrise version does. Which, you know, some things scale bothers me and some things it doesn't. It's like if it's a plane, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's in the sky. You don't have that accurate depth perception, so it's like it could be a small plane and still be a decent disguise. If you have a like 3/4 size, like crane truck driving around, like that's not fooling nobody. I don't know. I personally, I just prefer these guys. Both of those figures look good, Inferno and Grapple from Earthrise and Kingdom. I guess I did hear that the Earthrise version had some breakage issues, but either way, I don't think they're bad toys. It's just I prefer this one mostly just because of the vehicle mode scale thing. But yeah, he makes a really nice crane truck here. Rolls pretty decently well. Like I said, pretty big and hefty here. He's actually got like sculpted seats on the inside there. The whole crane section and the back section of this guy, especially compared to Inferno, is a little bit gappy. Like he's got these resculpted hands that are like more obviously like hands that you can clearly see from the top here. His toes are a little shorter, so it fills a little bit less of this gap. There's always like, yeah, just like a little bit of extra stuff back here. And then this piece here is just kind of sitting off on this this armature, which I've had to tighten up a couple times. But either way, he does have a nice like working crane here where it can rotate, but it's on like this axis here. It can also rotate up here, but then it also has this tilt function, which the rotation is like here. So if it tilts up like that, it's not going to be like appropriately tilting up at an angle. So if you want to like have it sticking out to the side and also tilt it up, then you kind of have to use this like transformation joint here. But it also does have a fully extending boom arm here, which is pretty cool. And then the hook itself is on a little hinge. So I appreciate that. Obviously it would have been cool, and there's been upgrades and stuff that have like actually added like string through this. But I wouldn't really expect that for like a mainline toy, but still pretty nice that the crane does actually extend there. In terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, and I think that works fairly well. And here he is with Earthrise Optimus Prime. Again, like the Earthrise grapple, I think would come down to about here. I want to say I've never actually handled the mold, so I can't say that for sure. I'm just kind of going off of like pictures and stuff, but personally, I just like the scale of these guys a lot better. And then here he is with the original Inferno from the Universe toy line, and mine does have some work on it. I replaced the like squirty gun with a ladder to actually make it a bit more G1 accurate. So this is not what the actual original toy looked like necessarily, but you can see he definitely does trade off. Like he's got a lot less like sort of specific paint apps kind of poking out. He's got like the things like the stripes, which is nice, and he does have like the bottoms, or I guess technically the back of his feet painted to make this whole panel orange rather than having the black blocks there. But he doesn't have any of the like extra tampos and stuff like that. But either way, I think that they both look fairly good there. Now to get onto transformation, he's got a fairly neat transformation. First thing you want to do, well, just to get the crane out of the way, honestly, we just rotate this bit around so it sits like that and kind of floats off of the arm there. And then you can, well, we'll rotate the actual crane later, but you can take these panels right here. They kind of unclip from the side there and then fold up like that onto what will be the arms. You can take these gray panels, fold them around like that, take the front wheels, flip them inside like this, and then you can kind of untab the arms here. They kind of clip over this section, and that allows you to take this entire waist section, wheels and all, and it will kind of hinge into the body just like that. You can fold down the bumper to be kind of like a waist piece. Untab the legs, rotate them up at the thigh swivel here, not at the, he does also have rotation like just above the knee. I guess, I don't know if it probably does work the other way too. I'm honestly not sure, like, but I always rotate it at this joint here. Well, I don't know, actually, because it does kind of reorient. Let's see if that works. Yeah, I mean, both work. I'm not really sure which one you're supposed to do. They feel about the same to me. But I guess in theory it would be adjusting the angle of the legs here. I don't know. Maybe it is supposed to be the other way just to kind of shift those in a little bit, but it doesn't really feel like it changes anything, but whatever. So it works either way. And then you take the little toes here and just flip them down into the rest of the foot here, kind of hiding that orange panel detailing and adding that back. Then you want to take these panels up here. This can be kind of a pain, but you want to untab these and then bring them out like this. And they do have a tendency to sometimes get a little bit stuck, like you can see on this side here, because it's just like the edge of the window piece is kind of getting stuck there. So you kind of have to force it a little bit, but then you want to take the actual window section, rotate it to the inside, take the arms, fold them out just like that, and rotate them down, and then rotate this down on the shoulder pad. You can put it in the back, but on the other arm that the like crane gets extended and is like in the way. So I put them out to the side on this guy and put them in the back for Inferno, but that's just my personal preference here. And then the crane itself, you could just leave down on his arm like this, but you could also rotate it up so it's a little bit less, you know, bumping into the ground. And then the cool feature of this guy is you take, which is it? This headlight? Yeah. This headlight here, and you push it back. Nope, I was right the first time. This headlight here, and you push it back, or push it forward, sorry, and it flips around the head there. And then you can just take this little back panel and double hinge it up onto the back to kind of like fill the gap that you'd be able to see through the windshield there. And there we have Solar Storm Grapple in his robot mode. And yeah, all things considered, I quite like the way this guy looks. Obviously, he's got some fairly egregious G1 inaccuracies in terms of not having like the actual crane sitting behind his head and having the little box around his head, which is basically the customization that I did to Inferno, which I'll show off in a bit. But other than that, I really like the way the whole like box chest works. You know, a lot of his details aren't quite accurate to, you know, like the G1 design, but he generally gets the point across in my opinion. And yeah, no, I quite like him. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint here, so it can rotate around and kind of look up and down a little bit. The shoulders are on these soft ratchet joints, which can click around like that and then go out to the side. He's got a bicep rotation, like a degree or two, a little less than 90 at the bend of the elbow there. The wrists, no, I don't think the wrists are on a swivel. Yeah, they're just kind of stuck in place there. He does also have these, you know, newly sculpted hands, which means he can't like actually hold anything, but he doesn't come with anything to hold. He doesn't have a waist joint. The hips are a little weird because so the forward and backward movement is done with this hinge here, which also can rotate and act as a thigh swivel. But then the side to side movement is actually done with these pieces in here that hinge out to the side. So he can only spread his legs about that far, but so you're not getting any like super dynamic poses unless you rotate the leg as well. But generally it's a weird joint setup, but I find it does kind of work for the most part. He does also have a swivel below the knee, about 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and then the feet are I think that they're on ball joints and maybe like a slight hinge there, so they can kind of rotate around and he gets a little bit of tilt, and you can kind of get a little bit of forward and backward tilt too, which is nice. So yeah, you know, decent articulation aside from the whole thing with, you know, not having a waist and then the hands not being able to hold things. I don't know if that really counts as articulation, but either way, you know, he's got kind of a weird joint setup, but especially in the hips, but I think that it works all things considered. It does also mean that you can kind of like tilt the whole thing like that, which is kind of cool because then you could actually like get him into a, you know, sort of like a, I don't know, like a kind of like sassy kind of pose where you can have one of his hips raised a little bit, so he's got one straight leg and one kind of like bent knee, which is something that most figures can't really do because they don't have like a a tilt on their like hip axis, but I feel like that's kind of a it can be kind of a useful joint. It's weird to have like such a boxy guy like this kind of take that pose, but either way, that's pretty cool. And yeah, the crane is definitely a bit in the way. You can flip it around to have it be like a weapon for him, but yeah, it's kind of silly. I would have preferred it if they had a way to just like have it hanging off the back like the original design there. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe. You can see he's a pretty big figure here, and then here he is with Earthrise Optimus Prime, so you can see how he kind of stacks up with a modern Voyager-ish height there. So he's pretty big and beefy, a little bit taller than him, and definitely a lot wider. And then here he is with Universe Inferno with my my upgrades to him to kind of give him the box head here and give him a ladder that sits off the back there. Other than the custom stuff, there is quite a bit of resculpting on this guy as well. Let's see what's different. The pretty much the entire forearms down are different, and part of Inferno's transformation is he flips these panels around, which Grapple does not have, and then he does also have more traditional, like 5mm port hands there. So I think that his arms generally are a bit better, although I do think that the actual forearm design is a bit more interesting on Grapple, whereas it's a little bit simple on Inferno there. The shoulders, obviously the head is different, and then he would have had the like a water gun before it went, not actually a water gun, it was a spring-loaded missile launcher that had like a water-shaped kind of missile there. And then other than that, their feet are a little different as well. You can say I think that the casing is pretty much the same, but Inferno has these like longer toes, which is kind of an interesting change. Like I'm not sure why they bothered to change that, but other than that, they're mostly the same, just a couple different like sculpted things here and there. But yeah, I don't know. I could try to do my whole customization thing with him as well. It's just with Inferno is a bit easier because like, I'm using a new part that I got from like some, like kids fire truck toy, whereas with Grapple I think I'd have to find a way to actually use this part, which would risk breaking it, and then if it didn't work, then it didn't work. So I've been a little bit more reluctant to try that. And then also with Inferno, obviously he does have to do a bit of a like parts farming during the transformation to get stuff like in the correct places. But either way, I really like both of them. I think that they're both pretty good figures that honestly hold up, especially for something that's originally from the Universe line originally. I mean Universe 2.0, but still. And yeah, Solar Storm Grapple is also pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. I quite like this figure, and again, like I said, he's still my preferred Grapple. I'm kind of satisfied with the two of these guys as my versions of Inferno and Grapple, and I doubt we'll ever get other ones that like are more accurate looking than the Earthrise and Kingdom versions, but scale properly, unless they were doing them in like the leader scale. But then again, leader scale nowadays is more like Voyager scale back when these guys came out anyway. So like, I don't know. It could happen, but I don't think there's as much of a need for them, honestly, like because most people are satisfied with the Earthrise and Kingdom versions. But either way, I just like this figure, and he satisfies me as my Grapple on my shelf. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday and Thursday, and without further ado, here we have Transformers Reveal the Shield Solar Storm Grappel.